It is now May 2021, and it has now been well over 1 year since YONGHE, Wes Davies, and myself stood here in this exact same studio talking about our own country's initial responses to COVID-19 and making comparisons with Taiwan. Today, 14 months later, a lot of things here in the world have completely changed, but a lot of things also remains exactly the same as they were that day, March 16th, 2020.
Are we all gonna be standing here? Can I have a box to stand on?
First of all, we now have chairs here in the studio, which is a nice change for sure. But all jokes aside, COVID-19 is still the #1 news that everyone is talking about every single day, especially here in Taiwan after the last couple of weeks outbreak. And this week's uncertainty and these new precautions makes it feel in a lot of ways that we have just been thrown back in time to that March 16th of 2020. It should not come as a shock to anyone that the biggest news, and actually the only news we have seen all week, has been about the coronavirus. So in this video, I wanted to once again have a quick check with my friends YONGHE and Wes Davies.
You say Wes Davies, but you just say YONGHE.
I thought about this too, you know? If I say Wes, I feel like some people may not know who it is. Because a lot of people think that his name is Davies, because Davies is a Taiwanese first name. But if I say like Wes Davies, then everyone knows who it is.
Okay.
And see now if the situation is reversed and see if actually Taiwan can learn something from our countries this time.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hello.
Good. How are you, Wes?
Just wanted to say hi. Hi.
Hi.
It's YONGHE.
Yeah, you're my mom's favorite YouTuber.
Wow.
What about me? It's okay. I'm Catherine's favorite YouTuber.
There you go. Yeah, a lot of them call me Davey. Nice to meet you, Davey.
It's like if I always call you like Yuan.
Uh.
It's not like complete. When we recorded that first video, did you guys had any idea that now over a year later we would still be talking of COVID and it would still be the biggest news and literally impact the entire world?
I think so. I think especially last year when we first started hearing about it in January, February, March, it really did feel serious. And we were sitting around thinking, can you believe this? You know, there's cases springing up all over the world. Countries are going into lockdown. I think it was really serious in Italy at the time. I really did think it was going to be a big serious event.
Now at least we understand a bit more. And I think back then I was worried that we didn't know anything about it and it felt very dangerous abroad.
The comparison I made when we first start talking about this was like, you know, it was the flu. That was the obvious comparison. It just comes this like, you know, we know it's going to happen. Schools are still open until it happens. And then the kids who are sick, they stay home and then they come back when they're healthy again, you know. In Swedish, it's vinterkräksjukan, which literally translates to winter vomit sickness.
Okay.
Is that the week after you guys eat surströmming for Christmas dinner or something? Or
That's during the summer, Wes. You should be
right,
ashamed of your Swedish knowledge right now.
Now it's even more than just the disease. It's also so many financial things. Like for the economy, it's terrible. And also people have depression. Like there's much more than just the disease itself. We did not expect that much, I think, last year.
It's amazing that this is all happening right now in Taiwan. You know, a year and a half after it happened to almost everyone else in the whole world.
Right.
And for the longest time, we were just sitting in Taiwan, so happy, so free, feeling so lucky. All our friends and family back home would call us and tell us how terrible the lockdowns were and the quarantine and the self-isolation.
I had a call yesterday with some friends from the UK. They were like, oh, how are you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. But it's getting a little tough now because it's like 5 days of our home self-isolation. And then they're like, in 5 days? We've been like 18 months of lockdown.
Yeah, nobody back home will have any sympathy for us. That's one of the things about
Exactly. Oh, it's gonna be very, very tough.
I start to feel that I'm so impressed at how tough they have been for the whole year, you know. Like we were in Taiwan having a good time and talk to our family and we're like, oh yeah, it must be hard. But now it's been 1 week, you know, and I start to realize how how crazy it's been, like how painful it is. I hate being home. It's the thing I hate most in life.
We had a live stream yesterday, and I referred to Yunyun as a little dog that needs to be like taken out every like 2-3 hours. If we do have, I believe, if it's 14 days with at least 100 new cases, we will go into level 4, which means basically complete lockdown, and no one would more or less be allowed outside unless for the emergencies. Based on what you know and how you have seen this transcend in Canada and in France, what do you think will happen with Taiwan right now? What can we expect for the next month, 3 months, 6 months?
Gosh, when you put it like that, that sounds pretty scary, huh?
Let me rephrase the question. Do you have any plans for next week, Wes?
Well, first of all, considering what time of the year it is, if everyone has to stay at home for even a couple of weeks, imagine the electricity bills. I think they're really going to have to subsidize people's electricity bill at the very least. People are, families are staying at home in their small apartments. They're going to need a lot of AC, more water usage.
We're in a lucky time now, because if it's anything Taiwan has plenty of right now, it's electricity and water.
I just hope that if we do go into a lockdown like that, it won't last too long, because people won't be sneaking out, they won't be leaving their houses, and it doesn't last months and months and months.
What is the biggest restrictions that you have seen and heard about in your own countries?
We were hearing from our friends back home that there would be times when it got really bad, during the third wave, when everyone was supposed to be in complete lockdown. You were only supposed to leave your house for essential items, and people were actually getting pulled over by the police and asking them, why are you outside? Where are you going? Tapped on the shoulder on the street, where are you going? What are you doing?
I had that experience like yesterday.
Oh, really?
I was sitting in a cafe. I was sitting and eating with a friend, and we just finished eating, but we're still drinking coffee. Out of nowhere, a cop came from outside to come in to the cafe, telling us that, hey, if you're not eating, the mask goes on. Of course, no one had any problems with that, but it was also this like surreal moment that a cop would actually stop, pull over, and walk in and like put the mask on.
It's good to see how serious the police and the government and the CDC are taking this issue right now. Hopefully we'll just start to see everyone following the rules, and the cases will come down and down and down.
But we talked about this earlier, actually, because we didn't know. The cafe is open, you go in there and it's like business as usual. And I think personally for me, because actually what the Swedish government have done is a little bit like this. There hasn't been any clear central recommendations or guidelines. It has all been like, okay, the Ministry of Sports, or whatever, have come up with sports guidelines. And then as the Ministry of Culture have come up with like cultural related guidelines. So we have this like classic example that all kinds of public events can only be 8 people. But for sporting events, which is not a public event, apparently, the limit is 500. So
there's so many things that sound ridiculous, and you think, why isn't there a higher committee that would first examine all those laws and say when this is clearly stupid. There's one in France. I think the rule was that for churches it was 30, and it does not matter which church. That's the thing. Like you would have this huge cathedral that usually can have 1,000 people, is 30, and you have the tiny one that's
for
like
30.
it generally is 30, it's still 30. So instead of using square meter for those stuff, they used a normal number. Who is really deciding those things, and how can they come up with this like without consulting anyone? And only after it's out, people start to realize how stupid it is.
How have your personal behavior changed? Do you like wash your hands more often? Are you like not as touchy with strangers on the street? I don't know how much you usually touch other people, but
and I would say I'm definitely being a little bit more careful with people. Like when I can avoid it, I will stand a little bit further away. I might not even think about it otherwise, but now I'm actually thinking about it.
Have you started washing your hands after the bathrooms, Wes?
I've always been a big hand washer. Don't worry about me.
Consistent with the hand washing, I would always spray my hands in any restaurant if they have one. The mask, I would say I would not put a mask in normal times. I would not put the mask in the street until like 1-2 weeks ago. Logical thinking, if it's a street, there's not so many people around unless it's like super crowded. But I would put it more like in the shops and of course in the MRT. But now, of course, it's super strict, and I'm very supportive of all those measures, even more. The more, the better, right?
No, and the worst part is when you're exercising. I mean, if you're out for
don't worry.
jog,
There's no difference. No difference at all for me.
Yeah. I actually did a 5 a.m. jogging earlier this week, and I had the mask on the whole time, and I could tell it was so hard to breathe. Like
I know how I feel without the mask. We as foreigners living here in Taiwan, I think we have better insight on how actually COVID has changed people's lives throughout this last year. Based on what you have gathered from your friends and families, is there anything that you think could help the Taiwanese people, maybe even the Taiwanese authorities, something specific that they should do or not do during these next coming very uncertain weeks?
Number one, because we are living in Taiwan, and in a way we're lucky that this is happening now because we've seen the results of COVID-19 for the last year and a half all around the world. So I think there's already like so much information out there of things you can do to help make this better for you and improve life here and, try to get this over as quickly as possible. I think one thing I learned from my friends back home was they all sort of developed some kind of new hobby. People learned how to make bread and cakes and they became expert chefs and built train sets.
A lot of French people are doing like baking too, right?
Yeah. A lot of baking, cooking. I totally agree with Wes on this part of how people should try to get started with this new life. And maybe I would add something for the government part. Not only think of course, how to tackle the epidemic, but also think of the financial impact and the fact that a lot of people are going to go through depression or will have a lot of money issues because they cannot work. And this is another thing that Taiwan is going to have to deal with.
This was a perfect transition to my next question.
Oh, wow.
And as an example, in Norway, very, very early on, actually, we talked about this during the last video we did, March 16th last year. They closed the schools very, very early. And then the Norwegian government actually went in to pay the parents stimulus so they could stay home, take time off from work to be home with the children since the school had closed. And then I had another chat with Rifat Ufong. He's paying the tuition to put his kids in school, and the school's closed, so all the kids are now at home, and he doesn't even get refund from his school because he has paid the tuition. School is closed, and they don't pay any refunds. Do you think the Taiwanese government should reward people to follow these restrictions or any other kind of like financial aid for families or for other people who follow these regulations?
I think absolutely. Otherwise, it's going to be a huge economic downturn, right? If people are losing money and if they need to go to work or they need to figure something out with their kids, I think it's really important for the government to help people as much as they can. And I know Taiwan's been really good about that in the past.
We are not equal in how we deal with this. Like some people are jobless immediately and some people are lucky to be able to work from home. I have a colleague, she has 2 kids at home and it doesn't seem that, they can just be in a room while she's working in the other room. They are together from morning to evening and it's super hard to work. And if you need to take some time off, you have to take some vacation days. There is no subsidy of any kind and I think it's a little unfair.
Now, today, it's the 22nd of May, 2021. Can you give me your prediction on when things will be back to normal, when the 14 days quarantine for new visitors coming here to Taiwan is gone, so our families can come here and hopefully make some new videos with all of us?
Even though we're going through a little bit of trouble right now, I really don't think that the attitude of the Taiwanese CDC and the government and the citizens has changed. I think people are still going to be very careful and they're going to follow the rules and they're going to listen to the authorities. And I think we're going to see things get better pretty quickly. I'm going to say the end of the year, all that's going to be over.
Yeah, I agree with Wes. I think maybe travel restrictions, Q1 of next year. As Taiwan is extra serious about everything, probably it might be a bit long.
Hopefully we'll be able to make some more amazing videos, travel videos with our families as well. And if that is something that you want to see, please do remember to subscribe to all 3 of our channels. And also hit that like button to show your support and that bell as well, so you get notified as soon as the borders have opened. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Lukas. Starts with L as in like, ends with S as in subscribe. Please do both, and see you all in the next one.
Thanks for having me, man. It was really fun to talk to you again. Stay safe in Taipei, you guys.
Thank you.
Same. Hopefully you come back up here again, Wes.
I will as soon as possible.
We're waiting for you. Awesome.
Have a good night, guys.
Whoa.
Take care. Wow.
Well, we're still recording,
Nice.
Wes. We're still recording.
Cut it.